Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline, the fantasy football call-in show putting you on the air with industry experts each and every week. I am your host, as always, Greg Scalera, here with my co-host, Sanchi Value. Sanchi and I this past week were united in our Giants fandom as the Giants went and upset my arch nemesis Packers in London. Go G-Men, baby.
Let's talk about it, man. That was beautiful. Wink's bringing a special force to our defense. We look like a completely different team. Jones is getting it done. All the turnover talks. He's holding that ball pretty well. He's getting it done with Walmart bag boys at receiver, and we want Lamar Jackson. Like last week, I wasn't so confident, but now I feel like we could beat anyone. Right. Let's go.
Okay, I appreciate the confidence you woke up with today, man. 4-1. How is that possible? I mean, are you surprised? Are you validated? Did you know this was coming into the year?
I did not expect 4-1. I knew it would be better than the last few years, but this is quite a shock, and I'm happy about it. Very happy about it.
I feel like when the Giants have big years, they feel like this, like they come out of nowhere and they're kind of not expected, and then they make a run, to the postseason, to the Super Bowl. The last couple of Super Bowl wins, it kind of felt like this. Like I'm not calling a Giants Super Bowl win, but I very distinctly remember even in the closing moments of both of those games, still feeling like surely this isn't happening.
They can't do it. They can't do it.
We've said that before.
Feels good to win again. Feels good to win again.
What's that like? Can you describe it to me as a Bears fan? Because we just sat through the worst Thursday night football game since last Thursday night. Jeff Bezos, I would imagine, has to not be thrilled with the product that he purchased for Amazon Prime, right? Like, are those free returns on Amazon? If you purchase the rights to Thursday Night Football, can you ship that back for free?
He should at least like give everyone a free month for these last two games or something. Yeah, that was rough. Justin Fields, I hate you. He cost me a nice stack of money on a parlay. Why can't you look at more than one direction? Montgomery was open to win the game. You just looked at one guy and you're trash. I can't wait to see you being a backup.
Life comes at you fast, man. We'll talk more about that game. I'm sure there'll be some questions about the Bears offense. Not that anybody really is invested in them for fantasy at this point, but maybe questions about their future at the quarterback position. We'll get into all of that if we have to. That game was garbage, and I wouldn't hate never talking about it again. But if somebody out there has questions about it, we'll answer it. So, welcome back to the show, everybody. For those of you who have joined us before, you know that we have a different expert on every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time to come on and take phone calls. We are a call-in show. Our number is 618-FANLINE. If you want to join us on the air, we'll be live for the next hour, taking your questions, start-sit questions, trades, rest of seasons. We can get into some of our favorite betting propositions for the coming week with our guest today. That's one of his many, many areas of expertise. We'll bring him on shortly. For those of you who are joining us the first time, welcome to the show. I hope you subscribe if you haven't already. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube every Saturday. You can find us on all socials at Fantasy Fanline, so please drop us a like, subscribe, drop a comment. If you're watching us now, say hi to us. You can write your questions in that way. We'll see them too, but if you want to pick up a phone and call, 618-FANLINE. What else I got to cover? Our website is fantasyfanline.com. If you want to see a schedule of our upcoming guests and drop a mailbag question for us, we'll be going through some of those today. Shout out Alan Wu. So we have a Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyfanline. If you want to support us, we are an independent fantasy football show, bringing you access to experts every week. And to do that, we could really use your support to help cover some of the expenses. And you can get yourself some nice perks like shout-outs on our show and some priority calling codes to skip the line. And speaking of shout-outs, got to shout out our one and only patron at this point, Mr. Alan Wu. One of my favorite segments of the week is talking about how great he is. But this week, I can't do it because I'm playing against him in our league. Ooh. And one of the perks of being a patron is that you get a win gifted to you in our fantasy football leagues if we play together. That's not an official perk, but it's going to happen because my team sucks in that league. It's
boy.
probably the worst team I've ever fielded in my many years of playing fantasy football. I didn't miss on a lot of players this
It
year
happens.
in fantasy, but all the ones that I did miss are on this team hanging out together. And it's funny because I'm in like 9 leagues and 8 of them are doing great. I'm really happy with them. And this one is just unspeakable. So Alan, congratulations in advance for beating all of my misses in fantasy football this year on one roster. You're welcome. Thanks for supporting the show, buddy. Sanj, anything you want to say before we get rolling here and bring on our guests and start knocking out some answers to questions?
I can't believe it's week 6 already, man. Time flies. Let's rock.
That's true, man. What is it now? A third of the way through the season? I feel like we were just going through draft picks and stuff, but time flies when you're having fun.
Way too fast. Goes way too fast.
Yeah, wait. So it's mid-October. This is my favorite time of year, and my wife and I don't get many simultaneous nights off together, and we have one tonight. So we're gonna go see a scary movie in theaters because we both love scary movies. Well, I love them. I think that she just tolerates them because she loves me, because she's great. But we're thinking of seeing Smile. But I know that Barbarian is also out right now, and I try not to do a lot of research into movies before I see them, so I don't want any spoilers. But if anyone listening wants to weigh in on which one of those we should see,
they dropped the new Halloween, man. You got to go see the new Halloween.
Yeah, I heard might just wait on that one to come out on DVD. I don't know.
It's already on Peacock. It's already on Peacock.
All right. Well, then maybe we'll do a double feature after we get home.
There you go.
Stream some Halloween. But yeah, if anybody wants to weigh in, Smile versus Barbarian, what should we do for our date night tonight? I will defer to the people, to the court of public opinion. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest, who I almost said our ghost. I need to stop thinking about horror movies for a second. Tommy Donut says nothing is scarier than a Thursday night football game. So maybe we'll just watch a rerun. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm happy to welcome back to the show John LanFranca, who was a guest of ours last season in our inaugural year of Fantasy Fanline. He's a writer and contributor for Action Network NFL, writer and podcaster for Fantasy Sharks, notorious Kansas City Chiefs fan. John LanFranca, Johnny L Football on Twitter. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Oh, man, it's awesome. I can't believe it's week 6 either, as you guys said, but I'm glad to be back on Fantasy Fanline.
Yeah, happy to have you, man. Like I mentioned, we had you on last year. There's a ton of places where people can find your content, and as I mentioned earlier, some of your best bet picks. I wrote this number down because I couldn't believe it. You are 18-6 against the spread so far on the season, 75% hit rate. Is that right?
Yep. So all of my articles on Action Network are completely free. There is a subscription service. It's a great bet tracking app as well. But I'm a pro subscriber there. There's content you can get for a paid subscription. But all of the best bets and all my game previews are absolutely free, and they normally drop Saturday night or Sunday. And I'm recapping every single one. Obviously, I'm betting them myself. I'm writing them up, and so far 75% against the spread through 5 weeks. So hopefully we keep the hot streak going.
Fingers crossed, man. If anyone out there just wants to make some easy money, at Johnny L Football on Twitter. No pressure, John. But yeah, man, I always really appreciate that you take the time to recap your hits and kind of keep score publicly on Twitter. Accountability is important when you're putting your reputation on these sorts of things, and I think the numbers speak for themselves so far in the season. So congratulations on your success at this point in the year. And anything else you want to plug before we get into it? You have a great podcast that I don't think has dropped for week 6 yet, right?
Actually, it dropped maybe 30 minutes ago. Not even. I recorded this morning, but the one good thing I will say about the Fantasy Sharks podcast, which I've been doing for a long time, it's just myself. I'm trying to get some more people on there. A friend of mine that works for BetMGM, at Corey Strothman. He's a player prop specialist. One thing I'll say is that all those write-ups that I have on Action Network, I'm pretty much breaking down what they are, before that comes out. Tonight or tomorrow. So if you do listen to the podcast on Friday or Saturday, you're basically getting what I'm going to play a day early, just in case the line does move.
There you have it. Well, if anybody has any, against the spread questions, player prop questions, we have the right guy on for you today, and I will defer those kinds of questions to you and Sanchi. I know he's more of a weekly bettor. I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I'm a redraft fantasy football guy, and I know just enough about all those other things to be dangerous, but I'm going to leave it to the experts today. So without further ado, like I said, we have a mailbag on fantasyfanline.com for anybody who has questions but can't join us live. And I'm going to start us off with a fun one. This is one of my favorite question we've ever gotten through the mailbag from Patrick in Arizona. It says, do you find it hard to date or be friends with fans of your team's division rivals? I do, and my parents think I'm crazy. So, I'm assuming this is a younger listener looking for some kind of life coaching advice here. Sancho, I'm going to let you weigh in on this first, because I know that you feel kind of as passionately about division rivals maybe as I do. What do you think here?
Well, my girlfriend's a Cowboys fan, so I don't find it too hard, man.
That was the first thing I thought of when I saw this question. I was like, I know just the guy to handle this. Does that ever cause any kind of tension, strife? I mean, is she like a serious Cowboys? Like, does she take it seriously, or is she just like, my family's a Cowboys fan and I grew up with it, so I wear the shirts? And
a little bit of both, but she keeps up with the scores, and if they win, and watches when she can, and like when we play each other, a little trash talk, a little tension,
Okay.
But it's not that serious. I have friends that are Cowboys fans, Eagles fans, like, I squirm a little bit, but
and it's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's not hard. Just
all right.
Be respectful, human being.
Is that where your head is at as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys and Giants, that's a much more intense rivalry. I mean, this guy in Arizona, what is he? Seahawks and Cardinals, is that what? You can't be a Seahawks fan or something? But
Probably, yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, outside of someone being like a hardcore Deshaun Watson defender or something, I'm not gonna think too much about it. My wife graduated from University of Missouri, so when Mizzou played K-State, which I'm kind of a K-State fan, we don't really have a local team in Kansas City, and K-State over their win total was my biggest bet of the college football season. So when they played earlier this year, I just kind of kept my mouth shut and enjoyed the beatdown of K-State. But no, I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like Patrick, I disagree with Patrick. I do not think it's that big a deal.
Go figure. Oh, and look who it is chiming in from YouTube. Amy T, let's go Cowboys. Speak her name and you shall conjure her, my friend. Shout out to Amy T. Thanks for watching the show and supporting us and tolerating your Giants fan boyfriend. John, good insight. I think I'm in agreement with both of you. It's no secret to anybody watching this show who has listened for a long time that I am a Bears fan who maybe hates the Packers more than I even like the Bears. It's not healthy. I don't recommend consuming the sport that way. It's something that I should probably talk to somebody about. But, I have friends who are Vikings fans and Lions fans. And believe it or not, I have friends who I am friends with despite the fact that they're Packers fans. It is mostly in good fun. But, like, I understand the spirit of the question, because when you're really invested, like, emotionally in your team, if you have a division rival who has caused a lot of strife in your life, it's not maybe something that you want to live with, like a constant reminder of that stress or a constant trigger of the stress. So, like, it's not a stupid question. But I will say that, if you can find a way to maybe connect with people in your life over just a shared love of football, regardless of the team or the rivalries and everything. I mean, my wife is very much not interested in football, but does it with me, goes to games and things because she likes doing things with me. But, she has kind of a half-hearted, she's a Seahawks fan because she likes the colors of their uniform and their branding. And she likes the Eagles because her family's from South Jersey, which is basically Philly. And the times when she takes an interest in football and asks me questions about it and we connect over it, I love that. It's so much fun for me. And if you can find somebody in your life, be it a friendship or a romantic relationship or anything else, that you can find something like this to connect over, don't let the division rivalries get in the way. Just enjoy the experience of both of you liking something. And, like Sanch said, there's going to be some trash talking and it's all in good fun. Just because Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are the absolute buttholes of human society doesn't mean that their fans are. So you need to be able to look past those things. Sanch, you got something to say about that? Any objection to my characterization of the Packers?
That's Philly for me.
There you go. All right. Thanks for the question, Patrick. Appreciate it. And, hope you work things out with whoever in your life is a Seahawks fan and is causing you stress. Juan in California, we're going to keep it rolling with some more, general philosophical fantasy football questions here. A guy in our league lost all of his running backs to injuries and buys. First of all, condolences. I feel like it's happened to a lot of people at this point. And he's asked for a league vote to allow him to start Taysom Hill as a running back. What are your thoughts? I'm gonna let John handle this one first.
So I'm not going to tell people how to run their league. I mean, it would be it would be a no. It's not even really, honestly, if everyone in the league was like, okay, yeah, let's let him do it. Sure, let him. I wouldn't be the one person to be like, no, you can't. But I mean, it's kind of silly. You have to kind of, because then if you go down this slope of changing this, there will be another time later on that something like this will happen. In 2016, Ty Montgomery, when he was kind of playing that receiver running back situation, I was actually in this guy's situation, and I needed a running back, and I even emailed RT Sports, which I run my league on, and said, "Can you change his eligibility?" And they were like, "No, we cannot." So it ended up actually costing me in that league that year. But I mean, like I said, you can't. You change this, this will happen again. Trust me, I've played fantasy long enough to know these things do happen.
It's a slippery slope, and that's a great example with Ty Montgomery. And I like that you mentioned that you didn't. I thought you were going to say I wrote an email to the commissioner of our league. No, you wrote to the platform, which I think is where that case needs to be made and the change needs to be made. Sanchi, it seems like you're in agreement. I see you nodding along over there.
Yeah, you can't change it week 6. This needs to be voted on before the draft for a specific player. But you really just got to go by whatever platform you're playing on, whatever designation they have. That's where you can play them. Like, they have him at quarterback, tight end. I don't know why you'd play him at quarterback, but you can play him in one of those spots. If you have him at just tight end, he's only a tight end. I know he's getting carries, but that's not what he's listed under, and there's no change in the rules this late into a season. There's no he's kind of like a tight end, so we'll let you play him. No. The platform has him. I mean, he's kind of like a running back, so we'll let you play him. But the platform has him at tight end. You can't do that, in my opinion.
So it sounds like a hard no for Sanch. For John, it sounds like personally you're against it. But if the whole of the league, takes a vote and allows it, you'll live with the results of that vote. I understand why this is being asked. I mean, I'm gonna pull up some numbers here. This is tight end Taysom Hill's stats over 4 games started so far in 2022. Tight end Taysom Hill, mind you. 1 catch on 1 target for 2 receiving yards. Tight end. 21 carries for 228 receiving yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 10.9 yards per carry, which leads the league for players with more than 3 rushing attempts. So, performing like a running back, he's on pace. Season totals, he's on pace for 3.6 catches on 3.6 targets for 7 receiving yards over 18 games. Meanwhile, he's on pace for 76 carries for 820 rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns, which off the top of my head makes him a running back 1. I'm not saying that the pace he's on is sustainable. This is a very small sample size, but this is the way that he's playing the sport and the way the Saints are using him. And I think that's a very valid case, John, like you said, to be made to the fantasy football platforms that determine his positional designation. But until changes are made at that level, I don't think that you can just go rogue and rewrite the rules in your own league, because like you said, it just opens the door, and next time somebody else needs something, they're going to say, well, you made an exception for this guy about this one thing, and maybe it's not as clear cut next time, and the time after that it gets worse and worse. So I just don't think that you can open up your league to that kind of chaos. The rules are in place to prevent those sorts of breakdowns, especially when money is at stake. And even if you don't always agree with the rules, the structure helps prevent infighting and situations like this. So Juan, those are our collective thoughts. I hope that they help you and your league, and you can take this and show this to them. And I don't know what I don't think you said what the outcome of that vote was. I'm guessing maybe it's something that he disagrees with and the league voted the other way. So hopefully you guys can move past it and maybe have a discussion in the offseason about what to do in future situations like this. Thanks for writing in. Corey in Tennessee could have probably, the guy in Juan's league in the previous question maybe should have been asking this question instead of, can I start Taysom Hill? Corey says, help, I need a desperation play at running back 2 this week that I can still grab off waivers in full PPR. Corey, have you tried picking up Taysom Hill and asking your league to vote on it? John, you have any names to help out Corey here?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 names. Assuming, obviously, you're in a fairly serious league and Eno Benjamin is now available. I'll give you 3 names. Deion Jackson, 30 minutes ago, Jonathan Taylor, and Hines ruled out. So if Deion Jackson is available, he'd be my top guy. He was available in my league. Now it's a shorter bench league, but that would be a plug and play. I mean, Philip Lindsay, I'd rather play Deion Jackson. Number 2, I mean, if you're depending how desperate you are getting. I mean, Tevin Coleman did get 11 touches last week. Granted, they were leading big. I actually like the Falcons to keep this game close. But, I mean, Tevin Coleman could get a goal line carry. He caught 3 balls is probably the most encouraging thing. So, that would be depending on how desperate you are. And if you're really desperate, my last one would be DJ Dallas out of Seattle. He only played 10 snaps last week. But I don't think Kenneth Walker is going to play 90+% of the snaps. Pete Carroll usually likes to have that third down back, whether it's Travis Homer or DJ Dallas. So, if that's a high-scoring game, if the Seahawks fall behind, maybe DJ Dallas can get you, 3-4 receptions if you're incredibly desperate.
DJ Dallas was the name that I had written down as well against Arizona this week. I mean, Pete Carroll is kind of notorious for not trusting rookies with full workloads, especially, a guy coming off of sort of a recent injury history. So I think we could see more of a split there with Ken Walker than we expect. And I don't think that there's enough attention being given to DJ Dallas as a potential useful fantasy asset in the near future, at least maybe until Ken Walker settles in a bit. That offense is surprisingly looking great under Geno Smith, and Cardinals defense isn't scaring anybody off of taking a dart throw against them. Dallas stepped up to 13 for 75 and a touchdown last week against the tough Cowboys defense with Penny and Walker both banged up, so it's not like he can't do it. And I think he's as good of a shot as any of those kind of guys who are still available in free agency to fall into a nice workload this week against a good matchup. Sanch, who's your name if we haven't already mentioned him?
You hit them all. You hit them all there. The Colts guys, obviously Eno, but he should be picked up in a serious league. If you're really desperate, see if Jerick McKinnon's on waivers. Like, there's going to be a lot of points in that 425 game, and he's been on the field a lot. He could definitely get in the end zone. So that'd be my desperation play, McKinnon. He always has a chance to score on the Mahomes-led offense in a high-scoring game, and that one is going to be sick. I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. Great picks. Hope one of them hit for you. Tommy Donuts writing it off of YouTube. What are your thoughts on leagues implementing a league median? He's got a follow-up comment here. I have a feeling I know where this is going. For example, would it be fair to give a team that loses and scores the 5th highest scoring that week a win, especially if some teams lost because of the Kelsey performance last minute? That is an incredibly specific question. A little behind-the-scenes baseball. Tommy Donuts and I play in a league with Sanch, and I came into that Monday night game with a 50-something point lead and lost because Travis Kelsey caught 4 touchdowns. So,
He's
Tommy,
unreal.
Hypothetically, we will address this question, and I'm going to pretend like this isn't you flexing on me on my own fantasy football show. John, what are your thoughts on the league median? I've heard some people do this. I've never actually tried it. You have any experience with it?
Yeah, so I run my own league, and in this league, we talked about league voting. There is no league vote. I'm the league commissioner. I decide every rule. It's basically, do you want to play in it or not? And all the rules are pretty much optimal for a fantasy league. And I've had league median in my league since 2009. So wow. I've had it for 13 years, and I highly, highly recommend every league goes to it. I'm not just saying that because it's a more fair way to do things, but the number one thing that no one thinks about is, going into Monday night, a lot of times your head-to-head game is already decided. Mm-hmm. But in a 12-team league, that top 6, bottom 6 win-loss, people are jockeying for positions. It doubles, triples the excitement of just when it comes down to the wire on Sunday and Monday night, because people are jockeying for that second win. And that's honestly, it adds such a fun element to your league. So, I honestly do recommend adding a league median into all your fantasy leagues, and you'll be surprised with how much of a difference it does make.
I am always in favor of things being done for the purpose of keeping matchups more engaging in situations where they might not be. We talked last week, somebody wrote in about how to keep players, from kind of rage quitting and after like an 0-4, 0-5 start. And we made some recommendations about, maybe putting in some things like, weekly prizes for things like most points scored at the wide receiver position or most points scored in a defeat. And I think that this is along that same spirit. The way that you answered it, John, is just about keeping players from checking out after things have already been decided. This kind of keeps those games relevant for a longer amount of time, which I didn't even think of when I saw this question. For me, I feel like this question is more about mitigating some of that chaos that comes with betting on any kind of professional sport, especially in fantasy football, where you could do great, you could do everything right, and something like Travis Kelsey catching every touchdown for his team despite, going for like 26 receiving yards. That can happen and blow things up. And if you don't enjoy that sort of chaos, then maybe this is a good way to sort of hedge your bet against that sort of thing. So for anybody who doesn't know how this works, by the way, I just realized we didn't really explain the system. And correct me if I'm mistaken, John, but I think that each week every team gets a potential of 2 wins and losses instead of just 1 every week. So in week 5, you could be 8-2 instead of 3-2. Is that math right? Yeah. So you get 10 opportunities over 5 weeks instead of 5. You play 1 game against your opponent and 1 against the median score of the entire league, every team in it. So Sanch, where do you weigh in on this?
It really all comes down to the league, because I know a lot of people are like old school and stuck in their ways and want the classic head to head. We actually rocked with it last year in our biggest league, and I thought it was pretty cool. Like, no one wants to score the second highest amount of points and lose their matchup and not get anything from it. It's like you're the second highest scorer on the week, so like at least you get the extra win and go 1-1 that week instead of 0-1. But as I said, like, the people in my league didn't like it. We scratched it. I'm cool with going either way. I'll be prepared for either way. It is more fair. It is more balanced when you implement the median, but it really all comes down to the league. I mean, it's all league. Tommy Jones, what do you say? Implementing a league median? Yeah, it really all comes down to the commission, the players you play with, and if they want to.
Curious to know why your league mates didn't like it. Did they give a reason?
They're just old school and stuck in their ways. They wanted the classic head to head.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think head to head, like I said, leans more into kind of the chaos and the luck of the situation. But median, I feel like, is more rewarding of fantasy manager choices and kind of skill over the course of a season. So it's up to your preference. Tommy, good question. Don't know if you intended to be an actual good piece of fodder for debate rather than just taking a shot at me, but you succeeded in both. So congratulations, and I hate you. So moving right along back into our mailbag, and just a reminder, our phone lines are open, 618 Fanline. Anybody watching who wants to call in, join us on the air. We'd be happy to shoot the breeze with you. If not, we're going to keep on taking these questions that were submitted in advance through fantasyfanline.com. This one comes in from Mark in New Jersey. He wants to know if he should play Devin Singletary or James Robinson this week in a half PPR format. Sanch, let's start with you on this one.
I think I'm leading Singletary here. There's going to be a lot of points in that game. I know he hasn't had that big game yet, but he's a guy who can fall in a high over-under week. Robinson kind of slowed down. The only thing I like about Robinson is because as of late they've been ripping up on the Colts as of late. But it was in Jacksonville. This game's in Indy. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think if I have this question personally, I'm leaning the higher over-under and the better offense, which would be the Bills for me.
They have the Chiefs in a 54 point over under for anybody who doesn't just happen to have that in front of them. So you probably want as many pieces of that as you can get. John, where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I thought about this one hard, and that's like Sanch said, the exact case for Singletary. And I really don't blame anyone for doing it. I personally would probably plug James Robinson in. I mean, he does have a better chance of just falling into the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown. I mean, the Bills could put up 35, 38 points. I mean, they did it last week, and Singletary scores single digits and gets 7 touches. I mean, it's just unbelievable that Josh Allen, is pretty much automatic in goal-to-go situations, and I totally get it. I mean, Singletary could catch 5 balls. He could catch a touchdown. I mean, this could be a shootout, a wild game. I just think the Colts offense is so bad that the Jaguars they're not going to fall behind. I actually like the Jaguars to win this game. James Robinson can fall to the end zone from the 1-yard line twice. And, I'm probably rolling with James Robinson and then just crossing my fingers.
Yeah, I think that those are both valid cases, and I don't think either of them are a sure thing because, we have seen the Jaguars roll into games where we expect them to be favored, and they suddenly put up a goose egg and are trailing the entire game because it's Jacksonville and unexpected things happen on the Jaguars. They're a tough team to predict. Meanwhile, like you said, the Bills can go and drop, 38 points last week against Pittsburgh, and Singletary rushed 6 times for 42 yards, put up 4.6 fantasy points. So I think if you look at the pattern, though, of when Singletary is successful, and involved. It's in the more competitive games. There have been a few games this year where Singletary just wasn't used, and they were absolute blowouts. And I don't think that that's happening here, right? We're all kind of in agreement that this is going to be a shootout. It's going to be very competitive. Kansas City's weakness is against receiving backs on their defense. Pretty solid on the ground, but Singletary has shined in that department this season. He's 6th overall in running back receptions and receiving yards, which was surprising when I looked it up. So, I'm trying to pull up the games where he was good this year, and I'm looking at standard, which I shouldn't be looking at.
I had that last year. That last year playoff game, he only got 10 carries, 26 yards, but he did fall in.
So Singletary's best game this year was the loss against Miami in Week 3. Their only loss of the season, 19-21. He put up 19.6 points in half PPR, and a lot of that was on the back of his receiving work. He caught 9 passes out of 11 targets, 78 yards, and a touchdown. And that is certainly a direction that this game could go. They're both, I think, going to be trying to. 54 points is nuts for an over/under, and it could easily get over that. And there's not many teams, not many matchups in the league that can say that. And if the Bills were scoring the majority of that, if this was something where we thought they were going to stomp the other team, Devin Singletary and the Bills are probably the only team in the league where it actually worries me when they're going to be leading, because they kind of just lean on their backup running backs. Singletary is that unique exception where it's not the game script you want when they're just going to be leaning on the run, because then they bring in James Cook and for whatever reason Zach Moss, and I don't know if they're keeping Singletary fresh for a playoff run or what it is, but he really only sees the field in games where it's close or they're trailing. So I think that is going to be what you get this week, and for that reason I'm probably playing Singletary for the upside, just trying to get some of that 54-point over/under. But I also like the narrative of the Jaguars leading over the dumpster fire that is the Indianapolis Colts right now. Robinson is coming off of 2 straight duds, which is a pretty harsh decline off the way he started the year. Colts are a tough matchup on the ground, and he's losing, passing work to ETN. So if he doesn't get into the end zone, there's probably a world where he could kill you this week. I don't think that floor of 0 is in Singletary's range of outcomes this week. So I'm probably going Singletary here, but I think that they're both good options. If it was standard, I would definitely go Robinson for the record. But just the fact that Singletary might come out and catch another, 8, 9, 10 passes, give me Singletary here 2-1. And if we're wrong, Johnny L has outclassed us on this one.
For the record, the last time they played in the playoffs, that crazy game, it was 42-36. So if you think it's going to be anything similar, slam that over.
That was also the best football game I think I've ever seen in my life. So I hope we get another one of those.
That's where I fell in love with Gabe Davis.
True.
You and me both.
Yeah, you too, John. So let's fast forward to some Gabe. Let's talk some Gabe Davis. We got a mailbag question about him from Carlos in Connecticut. Wants to know, is Gabe Davis going to be boom bust all year, or was it just a health thing? I'm going to defer to John first, since I already know what Sanch thinks of Gabe Davis. John, where are we at on Gabe Davis?
So I just want to start by saying, I never really respond to anything negative on Twitter. I don't post anything negative on Twitter. People are trolling, or I never troll anybody. But no, honestly, something struck a chord with me. Of the people victory lapping Gabe Davis, when he was clearly not anywhere near 100%. It bothered me, and I just wanted to say, dude, he's only not producing because of his ankle, and that's it. So as soon as he's healthy and he has this blow-up game, I knew it was going to happen. I kept him in the starting lineup last week. He absolutely can torch the Chiefs. I was at the Chiefs game last week. I've never wanted a rookie cornerback to come back to the lineup like McDuffie. We need him so badly in this game. And if we don't get him, that's why I actually don't think the Chiefs are going to win this game. It's our secondary is that banged up, and I expect Gabe Davis to keep doing his thing. I absolutely 100%. It was totally the ankle. Gabe Davis is a lock and load wide receiver 2, no question about it.
That is reassuring. Sanch, you think the same?
You can clearly see that he was bothered by that ankle. Even the clips at practice, he wasn't full strength, but he looks like he's back. It looks like he's back. 2 long bombs. He had a Randy Moss style game. unreal. I'm hoping there's more targets moving forward, but he's always on the field. Josh Allen's his quarterback. He loves the guy. He has trust in him. Like Diggs and Davis, they were talking about 1A, 1B. I still believe in that. No, Gabe Davis is not boom or bust. He should be in your lineups.
So I assume the reason that this question is still even being asked is because we as fantasy managers are trained to pay attention to stats that are and are not sticky. And I think that seeing him come off of a couple of down games and then put up a big game on the back of 3 catches, which normally we would look at and say, well, that's not sustainable. 3 catches for, what was it, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is probably a red flag for a lot of fantasy players. I mean, it doesn't scare me in this case because he still had 6 targets, which tied his season high so far. So it's not like there was a drop off in opportunities, and he's really seeing opportunities of the highest of values because he's not getting a huge target share, but his air yard percentage in that offense is great. And if there's one offense that you would, if you could pick out of all 32 teams that you want a high percentage of the air yards and high value targets in terms of deep passes and work in the red zone, it's the Bills. I mean, they're going to score more points than anybody else in this entire league this year. And Gabe Davis, even if he's getting a small percentage of those targets, he's seeing really high value ones, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities to have games with a low amount of catches, but 1-2 scores. So I agree in general. This is maybe a pattern of metrics that you shouldn't invest in, but you need to also understand when to sort out the exceptions to that rule. And I think Gabe Davis is going to be one of them. He might not be a reliable week to week, low end wide receiver 1, but he is going to be kind of a wide receiver 2 who doesn't always hit. He might kill you some weeks, but he's going to hit more often than he misses.
His ceiling's crazy. His ceiling's so crazy. We'll go back to last year's playoff game where we said he had the 4 touchdowns. His longest TD was 75 yards. He can do that any week with Allen, and hey, let him hate. He'll be in my lineups.
Yeah, this is not an outlier, I don't think. And I'm glad that we're all sort of in agreement, and congratulations to anybody who drafted him based off of Sanch beating the drum for him during the offseason. I'm one of them. We did a My Guy show, John, during the offseason, and Gabe Davis was one of Sanch's guys, and we got off that show, and I had a draft about an hour later, and I took my first share of Gabe Davis, and it's been pretty good so far on the weeks when he's healthy. So thank you, Sanch. Thank you, Gabe Davis, and keep on rolling with him.
Let's keep it. This is the week.
He loves
the Chiefs.
Even if you think he's gonna be boom bust, and even if you disagree with our take, this is not the week where you need to predict the bust. Get in on that game as much as you can.
Seriously.
So Sheila in New York wants to know: should I start Christian Kirk or Amari Cooper in a half-point PPR league this week? Thanks, but she said it in like that THX, like the kind of like she's sending a text message. So let's help Sheila with her question here. Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, I have those matchups somewhere. I should have pulled them up before I asked the question. Christian Kirk and the Jaguars have the Colts, of course. Amari Cooper and the Browns versus the Patriots. John, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so this one's really incredibly tough too, and I wouldn't really blame anyone for going either direction. Christian Kirk had 2 touchdown games versus the Colts already this season, but I'm actually going to side with Amari Cooper. So Jonathan Jones, who is the number 1 rated man-to-man coverage cornerback according to Pro Football Focus in the league, highest rated in single coverage, is out tomorrow. So he was limited all week with an ankle. He's missing the game. So I mean that changes everything. And I'm already on the over in this game. It's one of my best bets of the week. I actually think both teams will move the ball pretty well on the other team, and they're going to take some play action shots with the set. Cooper has had 3 really smash games of the last 4 when he's got the targets. I'm not afraid of anyone else in the Patriots secondary, so I really do think Cooper still has that 100-yard and TD upside in this one as well. And I just do not think I'm going to enjoy watching the Jaguars and Colts just punt the ball back and forth to each other.
What makes you say that? Yeah, it's interesting. They're 2 players in kind of really similar situations right now. Kirk is the wide receiver 15. Cooper is wide receiver 16 on the year so far through 5 games. And they each kind of have 3 boom games and 2 total disappearing acts. I would say both are arguably outperforming their preseason expectations. I know some people were higher on Kirk and that Jaguars offense, but Cooper, certainly I don't think anyone really had high expectations for with Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball. Before I weigh in on this week's matchup here, Sanch, what do you think?
It's really close. They're both solid wide receiver twos this week, in my opinion. Like, you could play either one and feel pretty confident about this week. But me, I think I'm going to play Kirk. As John said, like last time he played Indy, what do you have? 6 catches, 78 yards, and two scores. And in PPR, that's what was it? 22.8. Nice little stat line. Cooper's had his games like that too. This is one of the toughest questions I think we ever have for sit or start, because they are both solid wide receiver twos this week. And I don't think you could go wrong with either. This is one of the situations you just kind of trust your gut in. Like, who do you think is going to be better?
So my first piece of advice here, I think, is that if you can find a way to get them both in your lineup, I would do it. Sheila, I don't know the rest of your team, your other options. If you have a flex that you can maybe move around, especially in half PPR, if you have a lower running back slotted in one of those slots, maybe you want a wide receiver in there instead. But assuming that there is no other way to do it, let's flip that coin. Christian Kirk has 3 catches in the past 2 weeks combined, which is terrifying. I wasn't worried 2 weeks ago about a 2-catch game against the Eagles, who are an incredible defense, because he still saw 9 targets. But 1 catch on 3 targets last week against the Texans. You start to wonder, is he turning back into a pumpkin after he started, as a top 6 receiver over the first 3 weeks? But, you look at those numbers on the whole so far in the season, and you change his name to a guy with a history of more success, and we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, right? If this is like Justin Jefferson, who starts off really hot and then has 2 down weeks in a row, we're not like, oh, well, maybe he's not that good. It's just because we haven't really seen Christian Kirk sustain wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 numbers over the course of a year. And I think this is a potential bounce back spot for him against a defense with a slot corner and Kenny Moore, who I don't really think can handle him. And we've certainly seen that bear out already this year. That being said, Amari Cooper coming off a 12-target game, his 3rd one of the year with 10-plus targets. I think he's seeing a higher volume than we expected on a run-heavy team with essentially a backup quarterback. So I think John, though, has talked me into Cooper being kind of a higher floor play this week. I think that Kirk has the upside of popping off for another couple of touchdowns. I'm going to give the slight edge to Cooper in this one. But again, this is not something that I would bet the house on.
Very close decision here.
Hopefully they both hit and you start the one who hits a little harder, but I don't think that either of them are going to kill you, so don't lose too much sleep over it. Good luck to you, Sheila. Sorry we can't give you more of a definitive answer, but you got 2 great players, and don't think there's a wrong answer. Sometimes
it's a good problem to have, right? It's a good problem to have.
For sure. So we got about another 16, 17, 18 minutes here to answer questions. You guys can feel free to write in if you're watching us live. Give us a call, 618 Fanline. If not, we're going to keep rolling with the people who have written into us earlier this week. Poor Bert in Minnesota wants to know if he should play Juju or Judy this week. Gross, I know. Sanch, 2 guys that you loved in the offseason. How do you feel now about them being framed as gross? I know. Are you okay?
No, not okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna give you a minute to emotionally recover from this.
This one makes me sad.
We'll kick it over to John first, who maybe is a little more impartial.
So, Sancha, it's funny because I remember you guys did that, my guys, and some of my guys in my main league, listen to my team, Gabe Davis, DeAndre Swift, Juju, Judy. So I think those are some of the guys you happen to love as well. But I have a extremely definitive answer, and it might surprise some people. And it's unquestionably, you should bench Juju. Like, I've watched every snap. I mean, he barely has gotten even looked at in the red zone. And as bad as Russell Wilson has been, the plays are there for Judy to. I mean, it's very simple throws. He should have scored probably twice last Thursday night versus the Colts. One on the deep post. Russell Wilson throws it in the middle of the field for no reason. Then they design another play to him, about a 20-yard pass down the sideline. Russell Wilson missed that one too. But Juju doesn't even have those opportunities. If you want to get your 5 catches for 49 yards, start Juju in this game. If Jerry Judy, he still has a 100-yard and 2 TD upside if Russell Wilson can make some throws. Not saying he will, but no question, I would go Juju, or I would go Judy over Juju.
Still laughing out. Russell Wilson throws it to the middle of the field for no reason. I feel like that was the breakdown of a lot of his plays in that game. And Sanch, do you want to take a shot at weighing in here? I'm shocked by John's answer, but I love it because I feel like it is as impartial as you can get coming from a Chiefs fan, somebody who has had eyeballs on Juju. I mean, before we move on, John, what happened to Juju? Has he lost a step? Is he not a playmaker anymore, or is it more about the opportunity share?
So everyone all season in Kansas City, like, we want this big slot receiver, the guy that can move the chains, the guy we didn't have last year.
Mm-hmm.
When the Chiefs were throwing to Demarcus Robinson in overtime versus the Bengals to get to the Super Bowl, and we finally got him. Well, he's only playing about 70% of the snaps. I mean, we played Jody Fortson, Noah Gray. We have so many different packages. Hardman, Sky Moore's snap shares went up. So he's just lost in the offense. It's like similar to like a Devin Singletary for the Bills. I mean, the Chiefs offense can roll game after game after game, and Judy can have nothing to do with it. And so that's why I'm not going to sit around and wait for him to catch a 4-yard TD. Of course, it could happen, but I just think Judy's ceiling is so much higher right now.
That is an easy agree for me in terms of ceiling. Judy's got kind of a tougher matchup in Bryce Callahan this week, but he's getting a 17.7% target share on kind of a struggling offense. He finished outside of the top 50 in 3 of 5 games so far, but when he hits, and he has every opportunity to hit, when he hits, I just think he makes it count. And I just don't see that world for Juju right now, who's been living in kind of that low wide receiver 3 flex territory. He's going to see a lot of work against the Bills' zone defense, which, I think we can all agree he excels in over man coverage at this point in his career, but he's still not producing much. I mean, he's seeing 8 targets in 4 or 5 games, no touchdowns despite 7 red zone targets. It's just too easy for him to kind of finish every week with like 4 or 5 catches for, 30, 40, 50 yards, no touchdowns. And unless you're in a full PPR league and you just need a guaranteed couple of points, if you're really heavily favored in your matchup and you just need a guy who's not going to put up 0, maybe slide Juju in there. But if you really want a guy who's got a shot to give you wide receiver 2 production on any given week, I think it's probably Judy. Sanch, do you want to cast a vote here, or do you abstain?
Yeah, I'm leaning Judy. He's just the better player. Obviously, I prefer Juju's quarterback. Obviously, I prefer his matchup. We already talked about that Chiefs-Bills matchup, and you want to get people in your lineups in that game. And this could be a week for Juju. And if not, I think he's droppable. Like, if he can't get it, if he doesn't catch a touchdown the next few weeks and keeps getting these like dink and dunky little targets that don't mean much for fantasy football, I think he's borderline droppable. Where Jerry Judy's not there yet. We have to see what happens with Russell Wilson. I know like the shoulder, but you're taking the better player here, and that's Jerry Judy. I was high on them both coming in, but at this point, I'm still like I'm miles ahead on Judy over Juju right now. Juju's borderline cuttable to me.
So last chance for Juju here for Sanch, and I think you highlighted the important aspect, which is that Judy is just a better player. And you can look at situation, you can look at the quarterbacks that those guys are sharing the field with until you're blue in the face. But if those quarterbacks aren't using them in a way that's valuable for fantasy football, it doesn't matter. He might as well be, standing on the sideline, warming the bench, and still looking across the field at Patrick Mahomes. Not going to do him any good. So Chris D writes in from YouTube, wants to know J-Rob, Boyd, or Pickens this week. Let's get that part of the question first answered here before we move on to the second part. We talked a little bit about James Robinson already. So what do we think about Boyd or Pickens, flexing them? I'm going to start with John here, and I could pull up some matchups if you need me to while you think about it.
So I would definitely need to know the scoring. I would rule out Tyler Boyd, even if they said T. Higgins was out. I would rule out Tyler Boyd. I think it'll be a pretty low-scoring battle in the Bengals-Saints game. So I'm going to rule them out. The Pickens J-Rob one, it's probably going to come down to scoring. Full PPR, I'm going Pickens. Standard, I would go J-Rob. And then half PPR, I'm probably flipping a coin, and I probably would go J-Rob again, just praying for a short touchdown. But I have no problem if you want to go Pickens either.
Pickens and the Steelers are against the Buccaneers this week, Sanch. Pickens the last couple of weeks, 8 targets, both games, 6 catches, both games, 102 receiving yards, 83 receiving yards. So he's putting up some numbers. Is this real? Is this a pattern that we're going to see moving forward with the quarterback change? Who are you flexing in this
sure.
situation?
The Pickens breakout's coming. It's gonna happen. We're already seeing it unfold. I'm not crazy about the matchup with the Bucks. This one's pretty easy. I'm very happy to have Pickens and keep him on the bench or play him if you really need to, but I'm playing the running back here. That's just kind of how I roll. If I have like a flex decision, I usually lean the running back. I guess that's the old school fantasy player in me. Like I love my running backs, and we already talked about J-Rob and he could yeah, Boyd. I'm leaning because even without Higgins last week, Boyd had a weak game, and
Yeah,
everyone expected
I'm
him.
gonna strike Boyd as well from this.
But don't get me wrong, Boyd has those weeks where he just explodes out of nowhere. Like, oh man, who saw that one coming? But on paper, you give me these three guys, I'm leaning James Robinson.
Boyd is a guy that I'm fine playing when I don't have any other options that I'm confident that are going to produce for me. Like if I'm trying to figure out if I'm flexing Boyd over somebody that I'm picking up off of like waivers this week, I'm probably not taking a dart throw over Boyd. But I think J-Rob and Pickens are both kind of a class above that for me. And I am going to be in agreement here that this depends on scoring format. In full PPR, I'm almost always using that as a tiebreaker to start the wide receiver over the running back. Half in standard here, I am going James Robinson as well. So that is where we all weigh in on that. And will we trade Jonathan Taylor at this point? And who for? I got offered Derrick Henry for him. Was that a straight up offer, Chris? And assuming it is, Sanch, where do you fall on this?
Probably taking Henry. They're using him as a pass catching back now. At this point, I know everyone's saying buy low on JT. I want nothing to do with that Matt Ryan offense. I would take Derrick Henry in a heartbeat.
Chris has clarified it is a half-point PPR league, which of course makes the decision more difficult. He says it's a straight-up offer. I am also taking Henry in this trade. John, who would you rather have rest of season in a half-point PPR league? Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry?
I'm going to go with the healthier, super elite running back on the better offense, so Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points wrapped up in one sentence there.
It's Derrick Henry. Oh, this is the year he falls off. Nope, he's still damn good.
I mean,
it's Derrick Henry.
We came into this year with this idea of Jonathan Taylor as the number one overall running back. But it's helpful to keep in mind that guy was Derrick Henry last year until he went down to injury. He was smoking everybody at this point in the season. And it wasn't close. So, that offense has taken a hit in Tennessee with the loss of AJ Brown, but he's still productive. That offense still runs through him. And, as long as we're talking about two offenses who neither of them are setting the league on fire, I'm going to take the guy with the better usage and the higher touchdown opportunity. He says he's 4-1 with Saquon and Ramondre, J-Rob, Madison, and Rashad White. Congratulations to you, sir.
Saquon and Ramondre, those are my guys too.
Yeah, you're going to be just fine, I think, rolling with that running back corpse for a while. And I'm surprised that you even, have that much equity at the position. If you're hurting at wide receiver, you might want to think about maybe moving Jonathan Taylor for help at other positions. Because, how many running backs are you starting on a weekly basis here? You're going to have Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, who are auto starts every week. Ramondre will be way outperforming, certainly at least as draft capital for the near future, while he's the only show in town in New England. So, a little curious to know what the rest of your team looks like. But in this case, go ahead and make the move for Derrick Henry because I feel like he's a safer option at this point and probably higher upside. So that's an easy call for me. And you said that the guy already offered him, so go ahead and hammer accept on that. That's a no-brainer.
Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Ramondre Stevenson, that could win you a championship.
Yeah, Saquon
sure.
is, in my book, is the number one running back rest of the season. Like if we redrafted today, and I answered that a couple weeks ago on the show, and I agree with it even more now than when I said it the first time. John, just out of curiosity, is he top of your board rest of the season as well?
Yeah, top of the board. In 2020, I was already drafting Saquon number one over Christian McCaffrey. He tore his ACL in week 2, but this is the guy. This is the guy. This is the usage and explosiveness, and the Giants are winning. The culture is better. So absolutely, Saquon number one.
There you go. Yeah, he's got AJ Brown, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas, Boyd, Dotson, Pickens, and Jameson Williams. with Hurts at quarterback. So congratulations, Chris. Barring any disasters, you're going to make a strong run to the postseason. We're happy to be here to help you manage start-sit decisions along the way the best we can. But yeah, hang in there, man. That's a great team. Congratulations.
Wasn't it so nice to get Barkley in the second round?
Plus Mark Andrews. That's impossible. And yet here we are.
That's awesome. That's a great.
Yeah, that's great. Once you win your championship, make sure to tweet us a picture of it at Fantasy Fanline at Instagram, or at Fantasy Fanline on Instagram, Twitter, and we will be happy to share your victory with the masses. So Rory in South Carolina wants to know, do we trust Alec Pierce yet? Alec Pierce, couple games healthy, has looked great. They're playing against the Jaguars this week, a matchup that we've talked about more than I would have liked to on this show already, just given the teams who are involved. But, back-to-back games of 80-plus receiving yards combined for 12 catches on 15 targets in those two games. He started the year kind of banged up, but I think they might be figuring something out with him here. And one of the reasons that I liked Michael Pittman so much in the offseason was because there's just nobody else to catch passes on that team, especially now with Jonathan Taylor out. Maybe Alec Pierce is the answer to that problem. John, how do you feel about him this week and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been impressive. I mean, trust him to what level? Like, am I starting him as a wide receiver 3 some weeks? Yeah, maybe during the bye. I mean, Matt Ryan's arm is cooked, so he needs a guy who can make contested catches, and Pierce can. Like I said, I mean, he's still a clear wide receiver 4. Like, don't move him up your board too much. Don't start him over viable guys. But he is usable.
Let's put it in context. We'll play a name game here. Are you starting him over Michael Gallup versus the Eagles this week?
Oh, that's close. That was close. I actually maybe would. Only because I think that I have the Dallas Eagles probably the best secondary in the league, and this game is going to be 17-10. I mean, I can say that about the Jags game too, but that's an absolute toss-up. You can definitely make the case Gallup has higher TD upside just because we've seen it more often. But that's a coin flip. That's kind of a coin flip. Not any higher than someone.
That's about where you draw the line. Yeah, so Alec Pierce is about a Gallup level start for you at this point.
Yes.
That's a very useful fantasy asset, and somebody that you should be stoked if you picked him up for free off of waivers. Sanch, you have any differing opinion on Pierce?
Yeah, I don't really trust him yet, but seeing those targets move up every single week from 5 to 6, and last week he had 9 targets, 8 catches. As I already in the last question, I said I wanted nothing to do with the Matt Ryan offense, but you're getting this guy. You're getting this guy for 0 fab. He looks pretty good. I liked him coming into the draft. I have him in both my dynasty leagues. Just hope they get a quarterback one day. Hopefully soon.
That'd be nice. I'm sure that they are saying the same thing over in Indianapolis right now. Are you starting him over George Pickens versus the Bucs this week, Sanch?
No, I think I'm playing Pickens over Pierce this week.
Yeah, I figured that'd be an easy one for you. Garrett Wilson versus the Packers?
Leaning Wilson.
Okay, and this one's for both of you. Juju versus the Bills.
I want to see it one
Pierce,
more week from Pierce.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So we have a vote for Pierce from John.
Juju.
All right, so that's about where we split.
I want to see it one more week. I want to see a nice 8-9 targets, a solid game, and then the trust. I'll gain some trust, but as of right now, I'm kind of iffy.
So you're okay with another 8-9 target game on your bench before, Yeah,
and then as I said, if Juju doesn't have a week this week, I'm okay with cutting him, and you could rock Pierce moving forward.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's
clearly something there for Pierce. Quarterback wide receiver chemistry is a real thing, and not saying he doesn't have it with Pittman, but he's looked like he likes Pierce a whole lot the last couple of weeks, and it doesn't have to be one or the other, but that's typically how Matt Ryan has operated. Kind of hyper targeting one guy, 2 guys tops. So hopefully we see a situation where Pierce and Pittman are both ultimately very usable for fantasy. But it's certainly not the Michael Pittman show the way that we kind of thought it might be coming into the year, because you're never really betting on a rookie wide receiver to come in and be a difference maker right away, because traditionally, I want to say more often than not that doesn't happen, but now that I think about it in recent years, rookie wide receivers have been pretty darn good. So maybe we should have seen this coming, but when you're competing against guys like Paris Campbell, there was an easy path to relevance for Pierce, and he took it. And I don't necessarily think he's a flash in the pan. I don't think it's a fluke. I think you could probably hang on to him, and he's a matchup based play for me moving forward until he does this another 1 or 2 weeks, and maybe comfortable flex moving forward.
Yeah, he's a great football player. He was really good at Cincinnati. I had my eyes on him, as I said, in Dynasty. I don't think he's going away anytime soon. I think he's going to be one of those guys just floating around, putting up numbers for years to come.
Speaking of going away, one final quick mailbag question here before we wrap it up. Keyshawn in New York wants to know, can I just cut bait on Pitts if I picked up Higbee? I assume he's asking, can he drop Kyle Pitts? Here we are, week 6, asking about dropping Kyle Pitts, and it's a legitimate enough question that I put it on the show to talk about. Sanch?
If your waiver is really thin and no one's on it, I would just hold Kyle Pitts. I don't feel good about cutting guys I drafted super early. I know that's not the best way to do things. Like, you have to cut bait at some point, but I think you still have to hold Pitts. I think you still have to play him for where you took him.
So are you playing him over Higbee?
Oh,
Higbee, tight end 7 on the year.
I know.
Nothing
the only
really
other
expected
guy
to change.
Stafford throws to besides Cooper Kupp.
Kyle Pitts, tight end 25.
All right. I'd probably play Higbee, but I wouldn't cut Kyle Pitts because he's going to be the first pick. Someone's picking up Kyle Pitts if you cut him. And I'd rather him be on my bench going off than like you taking him in the 3rd round, cutting him, and then like he explodes the rest of the year like we thought he would. So I'm not cutting him. I'm cool with putting Higbee in and just playing the waiting game with Pitts on the bench.
John?
Yeah, total agreement. I've seen crazier turnarounds over the years. Pitts could definitely bounce back. I'm starting Higbee this week. If Pitts isn't completely 100%, I probably need to see a little bit, like Sanch said. But just real quick, crazy fantasy story. I actually picked up and started Taysom Hill at tight end last week in my main league. And
Nice.
I was thinking about on Monday or Tuesday morning, should I offer Taysom Hill for Kyle Pitts straight up?
Okay.
And it's half PPR, and I literally was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like that's how far we've come in 5 weeks. I mean, it's got to be like.
Did you not do it because you prefer to have Taysom Hill, or because you didn't think that there was a chance that trade goes through?
No, I mean, I think the trade would go through. Now, I guess I should say I don't think the guy would have done it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is like, if we're talking about who's going to score more touchdowns the rest of the year, if I ask you both, who would you take to score more touchdowns the rest of the year?
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's using the red zone.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy how much, that's an example of how crazy fantasy football really is.
Pre-draft, we were putting Pitts up with Kelsey and Andrews, and now we're comparing him to Taysom Hill. So,
wow. So
funny how that works.
I think I have a much easier time than it sounds like Sanch did playing Higbee over Pitts for the foreseeable future. This is one of those situations, one of the rare ones where I'm okay rostering 2 tight ends. If you are in a crazy shallow bench league and you have to drop one of them, I'm dropping Pitts, but I don't want to do it. I would much rather, if possible, find a way to move him and get 50 cents on the dollar just for his name value. Not everybody in the league has a Higbee. There are people out there who are struggling and streaming tight ends on a weekly basis and hanging on to guys like Evan Ingram. And if I'm one of those managers, I mean, I'm taking a shot on the upside of Pitts, but if I'm the Higbee manager, all the upside in the world doesn't do you any good if it doesn't hit. And like I said, tight end 25 so far in the year for Pitts, and there's a world where nothing changes there. And if you're in a situation where you don't have to gamble on that, and you can rely on production like Higbee, seeing close to double-digit targets every game, I am going to go that route, because geez, I just don't know what other choice you have, man. Cutting Pitts feels like dropping free value, free money, even though he's not producing any value. His name alone, I think you can get something done, even if it's, like I said, a discounted rate. You're not going to get what you paid for him, but you can get more than dropping him, and someone's going to pick him up, like Sanch said, because not everybody has a Higbee, has an Everett, has a guy who's actually working out for him. 12-team league, surely you can trade him somewhere for something, anything. But that's where I'm at. I think everybody's kind of trying to figure out what to do on Pitts. And if you're so lucky that you have a backup option that you picked up who's working, lean on him until something changes. And I just don't see anything changing on the Rams with Higbee's situation. He's the Allen Robinson that we all thought we were signing up for. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you.
We're not cutting bait just yet.
If you can avoid it, if you absolutely have to, gun to your head, drop one of those two guys. I'm dropping Pitts. You guys feel that way too? Would you drop him over Higbee if you had no other choice?
No. I'm not so convinced. The only reason I would say I'm starting Higbee this week. I totally agree with you. I mean, Higbee hasn't scored either. I mean, he has 2 double-digit games and half PPR. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he as far as the tight end landscape, Higbee's looking great. But I would, if you gave me a choice on a trade, I would still lean Pitts slightly. I mean, as bad as it's been. I mean, he does only have 1 touchdown in his career at this point. So it's close. It's close. I mean, we're kind of debating points here. It's close.
All right.
It's so hard
Sanch,
to let go.
Yeah. Can you do it, Sanch?
I can't do it.
All right. I'm on an island, but I'm taking Higbee rest of the season over Pitts, and it feels bad. But if you got Higbee for free, then you're probably not as upset about it. So hang in there, Keyshawn. Keep rolling with Higbee over Pitts, but try not to drop him if you can avoid it. So that is the last of our mailbag questions. John, thanks a lot for doing this, man. This was a lot of fun. If you want to plug your resources where people could find you, and maybe if you want to, don't give away the secrets of the trade, but if you want to drop maybe 1 or 2 best bets and give a preview of your podcast where people can go and find the rest of it.
Yeah, go to fantasysharks.com for my podcast. That's the only thing I do over there during the season. I do a huge write-up on all the receivers coming into the 2023 NFL draft. Every draft, I break down the receivers. I played receiver. I was a receivers coach, so that's kind of my specialty. At the Action Network is where at the Action Network, that's where you can find all my writing. My best bets for the week, I'll just give them to you right now. Bengals -3. I do think their defense will shut down the Saints. I have the Cowboys, Eagles under 42.5, get the best line. And I have Browns, Patriots over. Rams under 26.5. A team total, and I forgot my last one, but those are 4 of my 5 right there.
You'll have to tune into the Fantasy Sharks podcast to find out the last best bet. John, we appreciate you, man, and hopefully people were taking notes. You've been on fire so far this year. Go find his podcast, Fantasy Sharks. He's at Johnny L Football on Twitter, writer and contributor to Action Network NFL. There's nothing this man doesn't do. He's a former wide receiver and wide receivers coach, apparently. You still do that? You still coach receivers?
No, I don't coach. I mean, maybe with the money gets a little bit better in a few years, I'll get back into it. But Seahawks, Cardinals over 50.5. That was my last one.
Dude, keep hitting at this rate and the money will get better. You can do whatever you want in a few years if you keep hitting 75% against the spread. That is ridiculous.
I just hammered the Bengals -2. I got a -2.
There you go. Live on the air.
Nice.
Sanchi Value putting his money where our show's mouth is. Thank you for doing that, sir. And we will let you all. Yeah, we'll let you all know how that plays out. So John LanFranca, thanks again, man. We'll be live with another expert guest next Saturday, every Saturday for the rest of the year, 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can subscribe and stream us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Find us the next day on your favorite podcast platform where you might be listening to this right now. If you are, try and join us live next Saturday. We're a lot of fun. Follow us on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline. Visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a full schedule of our upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you sadly can't join us live for the next show. You can join our community of supporters at patreon.com/fantasyfanline with our good friend Alan Wu, who's going to destroy me this week in fantasy football. And you can earn exclusive perks like shoutouts, priority calling codes, and access to our listener league. For Sanchi Value, for John LanFranca, I'm Greg Scalera. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye, everybody.